Hello, this is Pastor Stephen Anderson from Faithful Word Baptist Church in Tempe, Arizona, and today we're going to talk about Mark chapter 1, verse 1 in the Greek New Testament. This is the third verse that we're going over, and it has some elements from the other two verses that we've looked at. But first of all, let's just read it. Archi tu evangeliou, isou Christou iou tu theou. Now, the first thing you're probably going to notice about this verse is that everything seems to end in ou. Except for the first word, archi, everything else ends in that oo sound, which is made by the omicron epsilon diphthong that we talked about in the video on the alphabet. So again, archi tu evangeliou, isou Christou iou tu theou. All right? So let's go through this word by word. Archi, we should remember that from John 1:1. John 1:1 started out, en archi in o logos, in the beginning, en archi. Well, this doesn't have the en, so this is just archi, the beginning, all right? This verse in English says the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, okay? So archi tu evangeliou is the beginning of the gospel, okay? The beginning of the gospel. Now, notice the word gospel, evangeliou. All right, this should remind you of our English word evangelist or evangelical, right? Someone who preaches the gospel, okay? Notice the two gammas right next to each other. When there are two gammas next to each other like that, it makes a sound like NG, okay? Or ni gamma, all right? So, archi tu evangeliou, all right? And then isou is a form of Jesus. Christou is Christ, iou, Son, tu theou, of God. Now, these two words here are the word the, okay? But because those words are in the genitive case, it becomes of the. Now let me stop and explain the genitive case. In the other videos, we learned about the nominative case, we learned the accusative case, and we learned the dative case. Well, there's one other case that you need to know, and that is the genitive case. Those are the four main cases with Greek nouns. Now, there is a vocative case also, but it's not very common. It's pretty easy, not anything to worry about. The four that you need to worry about are accusative, nominative, dative, and genitive. Okay, let's just do a quick review of those cases. The nominative case is when a noun or pronoun is the subject of the sentence. And when we say the subject, we mean it's the one who's doing the action, okay? So the nominative case is the subject of the sentence. The accusative case is the direct object of the sentence, okay? The dative case is the indirect object, and we went over this in detail in the other two verses that we did. But the genitive case is one that shows possession, okay? So for example, in this verse, it says the beginning of the gospel. Okay, another way of saying this would be the gospel's, apostrophe S, the gospel's beginning. Okay, because it's the beginning of the gospel. So the genitive case often in English is expressed with the word of or the word from. Okay, in the English verse, Mark 1:1, there are a lot of ofs. The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Well, you don't use the word of in this Greek verse. Instead, you just put it in the genitive case, and then you know it's of because it's in the genitive. Because the genitive case is one that shows possession, right? The Son of God. What's another way of saying the Son of God? We could use the possessive, God's Son. What's another way of saying the beginning of the gospel? The gospel's beginning, okay? So this is one that shows possession. Now, we talked about in the other videos that often prepositions in Greek will take nouns in the accusative case or nouns in the dative case. Well, also they can take nouns in the genitive case, okay? But in this case, all our genitives are pointing to the word of, all right? They're all showing possession, okay? Now again, in Greek, the word the is not used the same way we use it in English, okay? For example, we would have said the beginning of the gospel of Jesus, Son of God. Here, it just says archi, all right? The word the is implied. Tu evangeliou, of the gospel. Both the word the and the word gospel are put in genitive case because it's the beginning of the gospel. Okay? Then we have Isu Christou. And the reason that these are in genitive case is because it's the gospel of Jesus Christ. Okay? Jesus Christ's gospel would be another way of stating it, just to help you understand the possessive nature of the genitive case. Okay? Archi tu evangeliu Isu Christou. Okay? These are nouns, Jesus and Christ, that have been put in the genitive case because they are the object of that English preposition of. All right? Genitive case. Now, there's a comma here, and then we're going to restate who Jesus Christ is. So it's the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but then we're going to tell you who Jesus Christ is. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. All right? So because we are restating Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ is in the genitive case, we're going to stay in the genitive case when we restate who Jesus Christ is, the Son. All right? That is why this word, eu, is in the genitive case. Okay? Now, the nominative case for the word son is eos. Eos. Okay? But because we're in the genitive case, it becomes eu. Just as Isus Christos becomes Isu Christou. All right? Eos becomes eu. All right? Two here, the word the, and then theou. Now, remember in the other videos, we already learned theos and theon. Right? Theos was the nominative case of God, theon was the accusative case of God, and theou is the genitive case of the word God. All right? And again, we see a different use of the word the in Greek than we would use it in English. Okay? Because in English, we say the Son of God. So we would have a the in front of eu. Okay? To theou, of the God, we wouldn't put a the in front of God there. We wouldn't put a the in front of Jesus Christ. But there was a the in front of Jesus in John 14:6. So just remember that the word the is used differently in Greek than it is in English. It's just not the same language. It's just two different languages. So don't let that bother you that the word the occurs differently. It still has the identical meaning in Greek as it does in English. Okay? So let's go through it again now that we know what each word means. Archi tu evangeliu Isu Christou iu tu theou. This is a pretty easy verse to memorize. It's pretty short, and if you memorize it, you're learning a lot of genitives. You're memorizing a lot of words in the genitive case, and you're learning this great genitive ending, which is the u ending, which you're going to see a lot when you're reading the Greek New Testament. So this is a great verse to really drive in that genitive case, that it's often expressing what we would express with the word of in English. The of God, of the gospel, okay? It's expressing that without the word of. Instead, it just uses the genitive case to express that, okay? And it also will help you understand the idea of possession that the genitive case carries with it. Archi tu evangeliu Isu Christou iu tu theou. In the next video, we're going to be learning John 15, verse number